But anyone who's really referencing these trends as like a big part of the process this week, to me, there is an unspoken implication that the trends matter beyond what we can also just like bake into the data. And that, in my opinion, is very untrue.
Tambo, you said this earlier, that you're a direct and frank kind of guy when you called that lineup awful earlier. I'm going to try to translate this through because Blickle is the nice guy way of saying everyone's a fucking moron for looking at this stuff.
You did it. There you go. That's correct. So it is what it is. And I think you talked about it, Pat. Like, Tambo's tidbits died so every other thread could live, because this is the week that there's literally 15, 16 threads on Monday. Now there are 20 come out on Tuesday, and I get the engagement style of it all and understand that fully, obviously. But just noting it, it's like he said, it goes back to all of these trends. And the one that we said earlier, even too, like, oh, look at I think PGA Tour posted it, like the driving distance is key here. Yeah, guess what? The best golfers in the world are typically the best golfers in the world because one part of their game is that they can drive the ball. But there's a lot of other factors that really go with it, and that's actually not the stat that stands out the most when you look at everything else going on here. So it's really about complete game, all that. And for me, focusing on the DFS side of things, Pat, and you can translate it and then you can extrapolate on it, use it for betting or make the cut parlays like you love and all that stuff, is I just keep saying it. But if the leaderboard on Sunday was Justin Rose, Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka, Corey Connors, and somebody else, Harris English or Adam Scott or something like that, would you be shocked?
At Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. Code Mayo at Underdog right now. Get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $1,000 and a free pick during Masters Week. Get ahead of the game on that one. Smash the like, sub to the channel while you're here, because we're trying to win $1 million on DraftKings. Tambo's on the line, Blickle's on the line. They'll be doing a show together on Wednesday morning to talk about the smaller entry GPPs over on DraftKings. You can find that on the Ship Nation YouTube channel. But guys, I want a seat into this $3,333 tournament. It's already the best chance I've ever had to win $1 million before any tournament has ever started. I can't wait to come dead last.
I'm excited for you, Pat. It's the Millie Maker Masters Mayo Mania this week, and he's in the main event. Love to see it. Like you said, 27th place is solid in that tournament, so happy to have you in there.
Yeah, Blickle, if I come 20th, I think it's like $30,000, $20,000. I will take that.
Absolutely, and I don't know how Tambo's throwing around that alliteration this early in the morning, but that was impressive as well.
It's my thing, man. I love it.
We got to figure out what to do in the big Millie Maker tournament, and then we can try to help me out a little bit. First thing I want to dive into is, who are people going to here? Because obviously the betting odds versus the DraftKings pricing is obviously always going to be a little bit different. But Blickle, in the markets right now, I'm seeing Bryson and Rory and Scotty's odds get better for us to bet on, aka they're getting worse. And then you have Rahm, Xander, Bobby Mack, Minwoo Lee, they're all moving up the board. So do you think that's going to be indicative of ownership?
Yeah, I do. I think Rahm as the fourth most expensive guy, but the like second guy that people think just in terms of like pure rankings is probably going to get most of the ownership up there. And I think Rory especially is going to be the one who slips through the cracks, just because he's like in his own no man's land of pricing. But there's even a chance that Bryson slips through just a little bit, just because the guys right below him, Rahm and Oberg especially, even Xander Schauffele, have a chance to get a ton of ownership. And Morikawa would also be in that group if there were some health concerns that were alleviated a little bit. You know, if he comes out and just says, oh, I'm purely healthy, and we see that he's playing full practice rounds and doing his usual thing on the range. So there are just so many guys that people are really, really like excited to play that I think Bryson has a chance to slip through, and Rory definitely will.
How about Scotty, Tambo? What would you guess the Scotty ownership is going to be? Because it is a lot more difficult to make lineups with him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty low, Pat. I'd say somewhere around 10% is my guess right now. And again, you can put a wide range on that if you want to, but I guess my take is going to be similar to Alex. There's the Rahm factor up top. It's like he's $4,000 less, and people just have him in there as the next value. So it's another thing too, just watching all season long. I know we get a lot more casuals hop into the game during the Masters. Great contest, tons of fun, lots of content as we're doing here. But I think the big thing is people have also recognized that it's not just about Scotty. It's not just about Rory. It's about your total roster construction, and the builds just don't look as good or nearly as good, especially at the Masters when you've got some really awesome options at good prices throughout the middle.
Well, let's jump in to try to build a Scotty lineup just to give people a sense of what that looks like. You throw him in at the very top, and he is $14,000. That gives you $7,200 left per player, Tambo. Where do you go from here? Like, is Adam Scott very clearly the next click?
It looks like, again, when you get that average left, there's a group down there that I think people are going to have some interest in with McNeely, Scott, who you mentioned, and then Spawn. And that's just using the averages, right? But obviously, Spawn coming off the win. McNeely's just a projections popper. He pops at these prices, so people will see that. I don't know, and we talked a little bit pre-show, Pat, where your thoughts are on this, and maybe Alex can chime in as well. But like how excited are people about that upper 6K range, or just the 6K range in general, to get you back to where most want to land with someone like a Minwoo Lee or a Corey Connors or Siwoo Kim? Like, you're gonna need to drop down in the Scotty lineup to get those guys in.
I have no particular takes on the 6K range. Hey, my guy, Michael Kim, actually at $6,700 is probably my favorite. But Blickle, I don't know if that's going to be a good move or a bad move, but I start going through these names, and I don't love any of them. And I usually love guys in the 6Ks.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And I think it's not just that there aren't guys in the 6K range that feel like really good plays. It's also that the 7K range is loaded. It's not just Scott and McNeely and Spawn. Also, I mean, upper sevens, you've got Minwoo, you've got Russell Henley at 79. So I think there's just going to be a ton of ownership here in the 7K range. Siwoo Kim at 7,800 also really strikes me as a really underpriced guy. I think the field will like Corey Connors at 77. So as you see, like as you start clicking these guys that people are going to have a ton of conviction on, it seems pretty inevitable that if you're playing Scotty, you're playing someone in the 6Ks. And I think that people are just going to prefer the builds. Like if you go Scotty 7,200, 7,200, you're left with 7,200 per player. It's about the same as going up top to Rahm, Oberg, and Matt Fitzpatrick. And I just think people are pretty clearly going to prefer that more balanced build. And then they get their three favorite 7K guys. They don't have to dip into the sixes at all. And that to me seems like the chalk build for sure.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be Rahm, then Xander, Tambo. I think that's going to be your most likely start.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Fitzpatrick is going to just pop like crazy. And pretty much fits every build at 8,700. I know there's going to be conversation around those guys in the upper sevens, but I'm not against the Xander call. I just think it's going to be Fitzpatrick has to get into these lineups somehow for the majority of them. It's just the way it works. He's $8,700. Just he fits everywhere.
Can I show you my preferred start, which is going to be a big loser this week?
Let's see it. $1 million lineup.
Xander, Fleetwood, Cam Young.
Like it.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and it shows that it's it's the same conceptual build here, right? Like we're landing in that exact same area. If you don't want someone in the 6Ks, you're not going to need someone in 6Ks with that start, and you're going to have three guys that you really, really like in the 7K range. And that's just, the higher confidence type of build that I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards.
So you think that most people will go towards this Xander, Fleetwood, Cam Young build over this like Rahm, Xander, or Rahm, Ludwig, Matt Fitzpatrick? Because if you had to guess right now who the highest owned guy in this is going to be, who would you guess?
There's a chance that it's Fitz.
Yep.
That's interesting.
The thing is too, is like, it's actually, again, Alex and I do this, so we'll finalize tomorrow when we do the show over on Triple Nation YouTube channel, Pat, but it's like, when we look for the chalk build, the chalk build that you can build right now. And that's the thing about the Masters. It's always pretty prevalent. Obviously there's different variations, but you can do like Rahm, Fitz and get all the guys. Like you can get Minwoo, Siwoo, Henley, and you still have money left for Cantlay, Bhatia, or Connors. And that's like a build that skips the 9K, but it's just an example. There's obviously a Ludwig X version of it. Like you can get to whatever you want to, but it's just showing how those 7K guys fit into the build so easily.
So you could go Rahm, Fitz, Minwoo, Connors, Siwoo. If you lose Rahm from that lineup, and I think that Rahm will probably be the most popular of these top guys, but let's say people go to Xander because he is picking up a ton of steam right now. You could then get Spieth in there because do you think Spieth will end up being popular? Because I actually kind of like Spieth here.
I don't think he'll be that popular, and I'm hoping that he's not. I've got a Spieth stat for you. Did you know that he's top 5 in the last 5 years in percentage of rounds gaining strokes in major championships. Because I never in a million years would have guessed that he was part of that top 5.
How much is the Masters doing a lift on that?
Not as much as you think. I mean, he's gaining strokes in like almost 80% of his major championship rounds. So the Masters can't do all the heavy lifting there. And I made the distinction here of the percentage of rounds gaining strokes because, like Bryson, for example, he's a little bit lower on the board, even though he's been tremendous in in majors, because his great rounds, like he's had the type of rounds where in 18 holes he puts himself in contention. Spieth hasn't had the low enough rounds to really be in contention to the point where we're noticing how well he's playing. But what he's consistently doing is just giving himself a chance and sticking around. And if he gets that explosive round that we know he's capable of and that he does so often, that's going to put him in contention. But it was just really surprising for me to see how consistently well he's played in majors, especially because like that's the opposite of his usual game, right? Like he's usually the guy who will give you those explosive rounds and then he'll give it back on Saturday and he'll play himself out of the tournament. It's been the complete opposite in majors. And I think that's a very encouraging sign, at least to me.
With the lineup that I have up on the screen right now, Tambo, it goes Xander, Fitz, Robert McIntyre, who is another person that people will want to get in lineups, whether they can or not will be left to be seen depending on how they start. Then I put in Minwoo and Siwoo. Then I have $7,600 left. It's pretty easy to go through this, I think, that you can fall into these dead ranges. Like after Spieth, you get Thomas, Lowry, Hatton. I don't think many are playing any of those guys. I don't think anyone's going to really play Straka or Cantlay at 8,079. I'm not sure about Goddard. What do you get the sense is on Goddard here?
For debutant that can win. That's been the conversation all week. He's the guy that can get it done here, right? He's got 4 wins, 2 this year. It's the possibility. So it's funny in that version earlier we had with the Rom, Fitz, and the 3 upper 7K guys, it lands on 8,100. You had it there earlier and it landed on 8,100. That's Goddard. That's like the chalk build that will just plug in. And I'm not saying Goddard's going to be insanely owned or anything. I'm just saying it's someone that people will be very comfortable if they land on him and just saying, I'll do that and just see what happens. The guy's skilled. He's got talent. He can win. Let's see what he does here. And they'll take the risk and do it. So that was the build. Something like with Rom, Fitz. Yeah, in that range. Exactly. And then it's Connors and Minwoo you can put, or you could put Akshay if someone wanted him over Connors or Minwoo. But that's the build that I'm seeing a lot of.
So Rom, Fitz, Minwoo, Siwoo, Goddard, Connors, Blickle. Chalky?
Very chalky, yeah. This is going to be an extremely popular type of lineup. A lot of these guys are going to be really popular, but it's easy to see why, right? Like this is a really, really strong lineup. You feel good about all 6 players, and you feel good about them not just in the sense of, oh, I think that I can get a 6 for 6 this week. You feel good in the sense that if any of these 6 were in contention on Sunday, you really wouldn't be surprised. And so people love building that type of lineup where they look at every single spot and they say, oh yeah, this guy can get it done this week. And that's why I think we're going to see a lot of this type of lineup and less of the stars and scrubs.
Why is this a bad lineup then? Or is it a good lineup that you should play?
I don't think it's a bad lineup, but I think it can be very easily improved with a 1v1 or a 2v2 to someone contrarian where it doesn't matter really who, and every single person watching is going to have a different, conviction on some player where you can all take your own chances. You can all, use your own convictions to find those 1 or 2 guys who are going to separate. But the problem with this lineup is that there's nobody who can really help you separate from the field because they're all going to be popular such that if any of them do really, really well, they're doing really, really well for a lot of other lineups as well. And so you need somebody who's going to do well and actually like really vault you up to leaderboard.
So Tambo, my first thought here is get rid of Fitz. I mean, if he wins, that's great news for me. I got an outright bet on him from December. That'd be great. But I'll move him up to Patrick Reed. And then I can take someone like Goddard, and I can move Goddard to, I can't do that. I was going to move him to Henley. Now, I think Henley's going to get somewhat overlooked here in this range. And maybe I'm dead off on that, but there's just too many other popular names around him.
Well, they all fit into all the builds, and Alex was being really nice. I'm obviously more direct and who gives a shit style, but I'll tell you what, that's a very bad lineup that you had up there before, because at the end of the day, you have all the chalkiest plays and you have the chalkiest construction. So that's the worst combination, especially for a tournament like the $10 Milli Maker with 410,000 people. You have literally no way to separate. You get out of one corner, and people say, but that's the best plays, and the pricing has been out forever. That's good. A bad lineup can win the tournament. So play it if you want. I'm just saying that's not how the majority of people that have been playing this game long enough to know or had success with it are going to play, because you have no outs in that build, Pat. And if you go back to your favorite build, I'll give you an example, your 3-9K build, it lands you in like a $7,300 range where everyone's in the upper sevens. You now don't have Scotty and have to force a 6K, but still land in a dead zone in the 7K range where, by the way, you talked about like Henley. Yes, there's other guys up there with him, but like with Henley, Siwoo, Bhatia, Minwoo, Connors, way more people are going to land in there. There's great options in English, Burns, Penge, Knapp, Bridgman, whoever, Sungjae, whatever your guys are in that range, you can get there. And they're actually all still popping in projections, but they're not popping in popular constructions. And that's the difference. So yeah, I would definitely be looking for a completely different construction versus some of these 1v1 pivots. You don't need to fade all the chalk, but you definitely don't want to have a lineup like that. At least in my portfolio, it's not going to find its way in. So wouldn't want that.
Well, what I'm looking for here, Blickle, is if I can pinpoint the $6,000 guy that I like. Let's say it is Michael Kim. Let's just use him as an example right now. So I'll throw in Michael Kim. He is $6,700. And I'll throw in Harris English to go along with these guys. That puts me back in that range at $7,900, where I can take an Akshay, Siwoo, Minwoo, Connors, Henley, whoever it might be. They're all available to me now. But I feel like I've played them a little bit differently than everyone else is going to go, because I have that 1-6K guy if I feel comfortable that way.
Yeah, essentially Michael Kim's giving you an extra 9K guy here, and then the 9K guys that you chose are probably going to be a little bit different than the most popular ones. So this is definitely a better lineup. And I think one like intuitive way to think about this concept is if you built the lineup that we had previously on the screen, that the one that Tambo said is a really bad lineup. One way to think about this is if this lineup, if something close to this is the optimal, is what you need, understand that you're going to need to be absolutely perfect with your 6, because somebody else is going to have a better combination of guys if this sort of thing is correct. Whereas if you look at the Michael Kim lineup, there are ways where that lineup, something like this could be ideal. And if you don't have the perfect combination, you still have the best combination in the contest, because no one else has something similar enough with a better, 2v2 or a 1v1 off of it. So I think that's an easy way to just think about why being different matters. And especially when you're in a contest playing for $1 million, like the only real goal that you should have this week is building for first place, because that's where so much of the prize pool is. Even though there are I think it's like 1,400 people or something in the contest. So you really need to be gunning for first place. And it's not one of those things where like you want to shoot for the moon and end up, third or fourth if you miss. Like you're building for first place, and it's not good enough to say, oh, well, I can be perfect, or I can be perfect and get first, but even if I'm not, there's a good chance I get fifth or something like that. That's putting yourself behind the 8 ball when it comes to expected value in this contest. You really just need to be gunning for first. And I think this Michael Kim variation does a better job of that.
Yeah.
Spring's here, which means I'm trying to fix everything. Diet, schedule, clothing, but not sleep. Because honestly, that was the easy part because of HELIX. I used to deal with all of it. Waking up sore, overheating, feeling like I didn't actually sleep even after getting the sleep. But since I switched to HELIX 2 years ago, that has all disappeared. I took the sleep quiz, I got matched to the exact mattress I needed, and it's been a legit upgrade. I fall asleep faster, stay asleep, and even my sleep tracker numbers look a lot better. More deep sleep, less tossing around. And if you want to get a free HELIX sleep mattress, just hit the description and find out how you can get into our Masters draw. HELIX is award-winning, ships straight to your door, and you get a 120-night trial to make sure it's right. Right now, their spring savings event is 20% off site-wide. So go to helixsleep.com/Mayo and upgrade your sleep. It's the easiest win you'll get all year. The hardest part I'm having right now, again, is finding that $6,000 guy that I feel somewhat comfortable throwing in. If you guys know who it is out there, dump it in the comment section. I'll throw you in that draw for the free betsportsgolf.com rabbit hole subscription. If you give me your favorite 6K guy, boom, I'll put you in the draw for that. There's also a ton of other draws that you can get into, over $3,000 worth of prizes. And if I win the $1 million, I'll do an even bigger. giveaway for you. How about that? But if you hit the description, you can find all the ways to enter. The big one I'm asking people to do right now, if you've never done it before, or if you have done it before, Apple and Spotify, especially Apple, leave those reviews. We are surging up the charts right now. We have a chance to make a run at the top 15 in sports overall in America. That would be amazing. Thank you everyone for tuning in and sharing everything around. Leave those Apple reviews. Will go a long way into helping us surge up the charts. Tambo, who is your favorite 6K guy? Because I can't remember a year where there wasn't the chalk 6K guy.
Yeah, it's usually been Corey Connors back in the day where he would always show up down there and then finish 10th, 8th, 6th. It didn't matter or whatever. I guess for me, it's always looking at like what has happened lately and how are people treating things. Probably right now it would be like Ryan Gerard, only because or like Hogard, Harry Hall, like somewhere in that upper range. Only because those guys are always priced 8 to 9K. This is a totally different field, and I get that. You've got Rory and Scotty, et cetera, all up there. But it's people give up too early on these spots, but they loved them at $9,000 2 weeks ago or something like that. So I'm definitely going to be in the upper 6K range. I don't really have a favorite that stands out, but it's probably one of those three that I mentioned there that I'll be mixing into my lineups more than your boy Michael Kim. But shout out to Michael Kim, always the man, doing the shows with you, doing the posts on X, and then having himself a great week last week again. So yeah, love to see that.
So let's go through some of these 6K guys. We'll go one by one and try to figure out and try to isolate who we like. We can even start at the $7,000 level. So the $7,000 Blickle are Noren, DJ, and Bradley. No one's using these guys whatsoever, and none of them are playing well.
Yeah, I think Noren's the only one who at least has some, like really good course fit to the point where I'm a little bit interested, but it's definitely not a lot of interest.
Do you have interest in any of these guys, Tambo?
I was going to say Noren as well. He'd be the kind of spot that I would go there, but it's not, again, like I said, it's probably above is where I see all the value. I know we're doing the lower side, we're doing the 6K range now, but I'm just saying if I'm going there, it's more likely I'm landing slightly above to all the guys that a lot of people are talking about the guys above, but not really going to them versus the guys down below. We're just making a case for. So yeah, I don't have a ton of interest at 7K flat.
I guess my only issue with Noren coming in is that he's just been horrible striking the ball, and he is only there because of putting Blickle.
Yeah, it's true. I do think though that I actually wrote like a big kind of strategy note after last year's Masters in my Discord about this, where major championships tend to bring out who players are, not who they've been recently. And I think the Masters is especially, I think that's especially true for the Masters because it's like the height of golf pressure and golf nervousness. And so guys who are coming in good form, as long as they're like truly believing in how well they're playing, then okay, sure, they get a boost. But it also has an effect of when guys haven't played that well, but they know that they are good enough players to contend. They know that they belong in major championships. Just being here can kind of ignite something and get them back to playing some good golf. And so someone like Noren, I'm more open to that idea than many just because he knows, right? Like he's been around for years and years and years. He knows who he is as a player. He knows what he does well, and he knows that he fits this golf course pretty well. So the fact that he hasn't been great of late is a little bit less concerning to me.
So just taking a look, Tambo, at what Noren has done over the recent past. He hasn't gained more than a stroke on approach since the American Express in January. It's all been chipping. It's all been putting, which is a path here for some of the lower end guys. And you take a look at the Masters, 4 appearances, no finish better than T62. It's been a bad go for him. I mean, so far this season, and he's hanging on by smoke and mirrors, and he's never played well here. That worries me.
Yeah, it's like I said, that's the thing. The problem, Pat, is you put him up against DJ from the Live Tour, and you put him up from Keegan, Captain Keegan, who also hasn't been doing that well. So it's like kind of tough that range is just like if you land there, I guess you'd have to pick one, but you don't have to, right? We can just drop down. It's a good segue into the upper 6K range, like I said, where I think there's at least some guys that I'd be more willing to take a shot on.
So the next range for you, Tambo, McKibben coming over from Live. I don't think he has a top 20 on Live in 5 starts so far. He qualified by winning in Hong Kong last year on the Asian Tour. Rasmus Højgaard, Harry Hall, they're all at 69. Then you got Kitayama, Gerard, and Aaron Rai. They're all at 68. I think just objectively looking at this, Kitayama would probably be my preferred guy, but I don't even really like him that much.
Yeah, he fit the bill as well too, like the others that I mentioned. But a lot of those guys I'm just playing based on Again, like if people are playing them at 8 to 9K, totally different field, I get it. But for me, I'm still looking at that if I'm landing down there as like an opportunity for betting on talent at a lower price that nobody's going to. So I'm fine with like any of those guys. Hogard is 6,900. I was trying to find what price did they put Brian Harmon at too? He's like he could be like this year's Zach Johnson. What price is he at?
$6,500.
Yeah, interesting. So he's down the board a little bit further, but like I've heard some McCarty conversation. I think the next Michael Weir, you could put Nick Taylor in there. If it's not Corey Connors, maybe he's the Canadian, but it's not a great range. And this is why, going back to the top of why people are avoiding the Stars and Scrubs lineups, not because they don't want Scotty or Rory as much as they don't want to make these builds work or have to figure this part of the puzzle out down below here.
BetSportsGolf.com/Mayo to get 25% off the Rabbit Hole sub. Additionally, if you just want to try it out for a month, especially at the Masters, just use code MAYO10. You get your first month for $10 in the promo code option, and you'll get the optimizer, you'll get the ownership projections, and all the customizable stats to help you build your lineup. Additionally, if you're familiar with the Fantasy National tools, you can go into the Legacy tools, the lineup generator, and it has the Fantasy National lineup generator instead of you using an optimizer. You just favorite your guys on the left-hand side. It populates in there for them. You want to move the shares around, make it easy on yourself. All of those tools from Fantasy National are being parsed over slowly because Fantasy National is still open if you want to use that site. But right now, you can do that at the Rabbit Hole right now, betsportsgolf.com/Mayo or code Mayo10, depending on which membership that you want to get. Looking at the screen again, Blickle, you can see Ryan Gerard is still the guy right now. He and Harry Hall in terms of strokes gained total. But Gerard has been, we've talked about this before. He played too much golf earlier on in the year, and he finally took a little bit of a break, but is it enough to get him back to where he was earlier on in the year?
I think so, but it's also worth pointing out that really early on in the year, he had 2 ridiculous spike weeks with the putter, and that's just not what we should expect from Ryan Gerard. So it was nice to see that he then started to really stripe the irons again, and certainly I think he's the best play in this range, but I also think he's the guy in this range who has a chance to be 10-15% owned. And if I'm going down to the 6Ks, as Tambo said, these guys are pretty clearly at least a tier below Adam Scott and that other $7,200 range, and maybe even 2 tiers below like the Henleys and the Siwoo Kims. So if I'm going down here, I don't just want the savings in terms of pricing, but I also want a really, really low owned guy. I want somebody who, if this player does well, he's really, truly helping me separate from the field. And so I like Tambo's Harmon call, and I'll also throw out Andrew Novak down here as somebody who's going to be like 1% and is showing some signs of life. And just, if this guy plays really well, I want him to be a true difference maker in my lineup and not just one of 100 guys who also have him in the contest.
Novak is really interesting, Tambo. Blickle talked me into betting him last week. That turned out badly. It was looking pretty good after one round, but he did come T14. Yeah. He worked out in my DraftKings lineup, which won me the seat. So thank you for that, Blickle. The outright didn't quite get there. That's 2 weeks in a row. 7 strokes gained tee to green at the Valspar, almost 4 at Valero. The ball striking's been really good, and he actually kind of turned the putter a little bit last week too. Problem is, never played here before.
Yeah, we love a little Novak Nation. Blickle talked me into him last week as well. I was not as high on the places he had, so I went with 8 places. And so I felt a little closer with the T14, but it still didn't happen for me either. But yeah, I think, like he said, the key component is whoever your Novak is, it's like a guy that's just nobody else is going to have. That's going to be your true separator. But he goes the opposite of what we talked about earlier when I called it a really bad lineup. He's going to be a separator on his own, but he's likely to separate you with roster construction as well, because what's a $6,400 guy going to do for you in your lineups? Quite a bit, right? And you don't just have to go to Scotty with him. There's a ton of ways you could build with him as a $6,400 guy and just, or going to Rory or whatever it might be. So that's why I like an option like that. Could be Sam Stevens, could be Haotong Lee, could be Nick Taylor, who I mentioned, or Brian Harmon. But this is the spots I'm liking down low here, where you can get a little bit different with your builds and have a separator in the play.
So Sam Stevens is playing for, I believe this is his debut. It is his debut at the Masters, Alex. He was T5 his last go in Houston. He's been gaining on approach. He's gained on approach in every start this year except for one. That was at API. And we all know that 2 or 3 bad water balls on approaches can really sink you for the week. But his driving is always good. The ball striking is always good. And he is kind of hit or miss with his putter. But when he gains, he tends to gain a bunch. It's the kind of player that you'd like to see here, isn't it?
Yeah, he is. I think one advantage to someone like Novak over Stevens is that He knows what it feels like to truly be in contention in tournaments. And Stevens has gotten there sometimes. He hasn't really played well when in contention yet. But the nice thing about that is like the only comparable pressure for these guys when they get to Augusta is having been in contention previously. So at least with Novak, like I know he's felt that, and I know that he's been able to perform with that pressure. What Stevens is going to feel here is going to be different than anything he's experienced on the PGA Tour because he hasn't been in contention the way that Novak has. So when down here in this price range, like that's something that I'm looking for. Has this guy experienced the kinds of feelings that he's going to feel this week on the course?
Well, there's only a few guys down there that would fit that bill. I would think that Nick Taylor fits it. Brian Harman, obviously a major winner, fits it. And the other one who was Cuss picked to win this tournament in 2018, and I don't know if he's been back to the Masters since, is Hao Tong, but he's just kind of taken a left turn recently.
Yeah, I don't know if I can go with Hao Tong this week, but yeah, I think Harman and Nick Taylor are really solid plays.
Which one would you prefer, Tambo, Harman or Nick Taylor?
Probably Harman, but that tells you there's no Canadian bias, but I agree on those points. I actually like the reasoning that Alex gave of like, having that pressure. That's the only time you would feel it before. I think both are capable, but that's why I'm saying I would rather go with those options. And I also liked his point on like someone like Novak versus Sam Stevens. There's actually a couple spots like that on the board this week where you're getting like the next door neighbor of an option that people are. I think Stevens will be much higher owned than Novak because of look at BetSperts on the stats, on the models, all I get all that, but it's like for the same price, you could see like a 6% to a 0.5% in ownership or something. And that's still pretty big when it comes to these opportunities.
The other way that I would try to look at this, and it is strangely enough, I thought this is the one good point that Cust made when he was going through everything, is that does Potgieter have the right set of skills and has played well at the right type of courses to do well here?
I don't think so. I think he's obviously the kind of guy that you play when driving distance is super predictive and driving accuracy is not. And that's not the case here at Augusta. We have a big boost on driving accuracy's predictive value here.
So the way I would try to swing this is if we're trying to bet on a skill down here, he does have the best of, like, Michael Brennan is how much? Michael Brennan is going to be, he's ninth off the tee. He's started to fall back a little bit, but he's at $6,600. I would say that of all the skills here at the bottom, outside of maybe Herman's putting, or Zach Johnson's putting, or Zach Johnson's wedges, which can be a bit fickle, and dude is like 51 years old now. Potgieter's distance off the tee and his ability to gain strokes off the tee, which has been very important at Augusta. Not so much the distance, but the gaining of strokes. Even when Reed won his Masters, he gained like over 3 strokes that year, which is crazy. When Tiger won, it wasn't huge off the tee, but he gained almost 2 strokes that year. And you go back to Rory or Rahm or all the Scotty years. You need to do the other things well, which is the hard part. But he does have that one skill that will kind of separate it if it goes well, where a lot of these other guys don't at these price points.
That's definitely true. I think my counter would be that Augusta National might be a course where it's more about how weak is your weakness, and the guys who are going to do well here, especially in this price range, are the guys who actually don't have much of a weakness, and they're not going to really get beat by the course in one specific area. And so, like, especially around the green play, Potgieter is probably going to have a lot of trouble around these Augusta greens, and same with on the greens, right? Like, and when you look at someone like Nick Taylor or Novak, even Sam Stevens, Brian Harman, like the quote unquote strength of their game is that they don't have holes where Augusta is really going to expose them.
Tambo, Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson is the last guy that I would start to consider. He's made a bunch of cuts so far this year. The ball striking is usually pretty good. Last time out in Houston, he got cut. He just has no like high-end finishes, but he seems to be like the type of young player who would go out and make a splash at Augusta right away because of that prodigious skill set that he has.
Very possible. The more we talk through this and the more I see it, like he again, like all these guys, Potgieters, all them, it's like we're trying to fit stuff in, and obviously that's part of the game. And if you're playing in the $10 Millie Maker, as many of you are, I get it. So it's like, yes, take shots on these guys that have, big ceiling or nothing. I don't know if he even does, but just saying like the Potgieter thing, like if you think he can get something going here and get you a top 10, he's going to be very valuable in a lineup like that to separate you, get a different construction, all of that. But I guess my takeaway from all this, the more we discuss it, is like you can build you said his name, and that's what made me think of this, Pat. You could build like a Justin Rose, Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth, Adam Scott lineup, be a completely different construction, maybe have everybody at 10% or below, because these are just dead zones people can't land in. And that could literally be the leaderboard going into Sunday with whatever 2 other names you land on. So that's how I'm looking at things this week. I think what we have here is a clear case of, just common roster construction that's going to be prevalent across all tournaments, and then pick up even more in the higher buy-ins, like that main event that you're in that you mentioned. So I think that's going to be a factor here as well.
Blickle, when I'm taking a look at it, do I just avoid the 6Ks? Am I trying to get too greedy by trying to jam one of these guys in?
I wouldn't say you're trying to get too greedy, especially because you're in the Millie this week. Like I think it's absolutely worth thinking through that entire range. But you should also compare it to lineups where you don't have to do that, and just ask yourself, do I have enough differentiation? Do I have enough potential separation to go win this thing, or do I need to tap into the 6K range? And there's a very real chance that the best answer is going to someone in the 6K range. But when you're doing that, I think it's really important that you do so to, number one, a true separator, so a really low-owned guy. And then number two, you want to make sure that those savings are actually getting you not just like another great player, but a unique combination of great players that other people are going to have a lot of difficulty fitting into their lineups together.
Well, how low is too low to start with your best guy? Because when I built that lineup earlier, that started Xander, Tommy, and Cam Young, that left me down in that $7,200 range that we talked about. So let's say I take out one of these guys. Let's say I take out Cam Young and replace him with Spieth. And now I have an extra $800 to throw around, and that gets me up to like Nikolai Højgaard. Is that lineup better than the one that I just had in? So it's a 2v2 of Cameron Young and Michael Kim for Jordan Spieth and Nikolai Højgaard.
I think this one's better because I think English and Højgaard are probably going to be low enough owned, maybe even Spieth, where you do have the potential separation in this lineup, and now you also have the really, really strong like weak link to the lineup, because all 6 of these guys are really solid plays.
If you had to rate those two decisions, Tambo, which way do you think is the better construction? It might not win, but which one makes the most sense of getting to the top?
The one you just built, because it's a 998 with 3 7s, but it's, again, you're not landing all on. There is no. It's, yes, you fit a Henley in there, who, like you said, well, he could be owned some. It's still, he could be overlooked to Siwoo, Minwoo, Connors, maybe Akshay. Like, you see all those guys, and even if Goddard gets a little bit of steam, like, it's all in that range. But you're getting away with him because not as many people are going to have that with Nikolai and English. And then on top of it, up top, even if Xander's popular, how many people are starting Xander and Fleetwood and not going with Rahm, Bryson, Scotty, Rory, Fitz, all these different options? So yeah, I think that's the key component to a build like this. Yeah, you land on one of the popular dudes that we've mentioned, maybe even Xander and Henley, but these are the builds, Pat, and this is a good spot for me to bring this up. The $10 Millie Maker last year, the winner had 2 options around 25%, 1 option at 17%, and then 3 options around 5% in their lineup. And so it just gives you the take of, like, again, you don't need to completely go like 6 guys under 10%. You don't need to play all the chalk like we talked about. But if Xander and Henley picked up steam, and I don't know, Fleetwood or Spieth, let's say Spieth hits that middling ground, you could see 3 of these guys be under 7%, 8%. Like, it's fine to kind of fit it into that kind of mold that we just talked about. So yeah, I think this is a much better build versus trying to force something else just to get another option.
We've spoken about Scotty lineups. We've gone through Rahm lineups at this point. I do want to get to Bryson, Rory, and I especially want to hammer down on Morikawa because we don't know all the Morikawa information yet. We have what he said Monday at the Masters, and I will have all of these updates every single day I'll speak to Keith on very late on Tuesday evening for Wednesday morning after he gets another day of pressers. He's at Augusta. He'll be joining me on the next show that comes out on the feed. So subscribe. And in the Mayo Media Substack, it's a free newsletter. Once there's more information, the finalized cheat sheet will come out on Wednesday afternoon. Final bets, final DFS, final ownership projections, and any news, late breaking news that's going to be happening. And there's a live chat, 8 p.m. on Wednesday evening with me, where if you do have questions, tune into that. I will answer them all there for you. Hopefully well, probably not well, but tune in anyway. It's a lot of fun. And I get mad at people when they ask stupid questions. People seem to enjoy that. But what do you do with Morikawa at this point in time? I have some Morikawa quotes if you would like to hear them.
Yeah, send them.
Definitely.
Can you walk us through how you're feeling right now? Collin Morikawa says, yeah, the honest truth is I'm taking it day by day. It's not exactly where I want to be. It's unfortunate, but that's just the body. I can't push it. It's been a little bit of a mental battle, I think, just trying to trust where it's at. The back actually feels fine. It's the other parts of the body that aren't cooperating a little bit how I want. How much have you been able to practice? Yeah, I've been hitting balls for the past week, so I ended up pulling out to have letter O last week. I mean, that's a typo in the transcript, and was able to hit some balls to continue to play. But at a comfort level, this isn't the place where you want to be uncomfortable, but sometimes you got to find other ways to get around a golf course. So I'm kind of, making a different game plan. That sounds terrifying to me.
That sounds awful. And it's also a little bit confusing that he said, like, the back isn't necessarily the issue. It's the other body parts. Like, okay, well, what else are you dealing with here? It's very odd. And yeah, it doesn't sound great. The one thing I will bring up though, is remember that we had a Tony Finau top 10 the year that he sprained his ankle celebrating. And so there is a saying in golf, beware of the injured golfer. Maybe that's the case this week, and he's just going to be totally fine. We also had an instance like this going into the Open Championship that Morikawa won, where people had a reason to like really come off of him because he was talking about how he didn't like the way his irons were interacting with the turf overseas, and then he goes on and wins. And so maybe it's a really good buy low opportunity, but it definitely doesn't sound promising.
Would you buy low on this, Tambo? I'm not talking about like 150 max where you're going to have a bit of everyone to construct lineups. I'm talking about a big tournament, high price tournament. Would you risk it on Morikawa knowing that no one's going to use him?
I wouldn't, and actually it has nothing to do with any of the other stuff. Like I get why people would and what you said with the 150 piece, but even in like my main or something, it's only because of what I like around him. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, I like Justin Rose, I like Cam Young, I like Tommy Fleetwood, I like all these other guys around him a lot more anyway before this coming in. And Morikawa, I think it's hilarious because Alex brought up the point. It is true. It was before the Open, the Dan Rappaport thing, when he said, he couldn't really figure out his irons and then goes in and wins the trophy. This guy's now talking about his brain waves and patterns and shit that he can't figure out. So it's like, I think he's trying to be like Michael Jordan from the documentary, saying how he would like start a battle with someone on the other side just to like pump himself up. I think Morikawa is like telling himself the excuse before it happens in case it doesn't go through, but in turn trying to like turn himself on and get something going here. And I don't know if it'll be the case. He's been decent here in the past, obviously had some great results, but I personally liked some of the guys around him a lot more.
Rory or Bryson, if you were starting lineups, or both?
I'll go first quickly on this because I was actually going to just bring this up. I like Bryson. I think it's interesting to me that Rahm is getting all the love here. I mean, obviously he's got a green jacket, so I get that, but it's funny. Rahm literally just lost to Bryson a couple weeks ago. I know that, that was a bounce back spot or whatever, but Bryson got him. And then if you look at the last couple of years here, it's been Bryson getting better anyway, after everyone made fun of him, including myself, for some of the other stuff. So I don't know. It's definitely an opportunity here. Bryson can do it. We know he's capable. It just didn't happen last year. It was Rory's to be, so we'll see. But I think Bryson's really interesting this week at $200 more than Rahm, and Rahm could be double the ownership by the looks of it right now.
Yeah, I'm on team. I think that Rahm is just simply going to play better than Bryson this week, Blickle. And I don't think that, yes, he has run him down in the past two tournaments. I don't think any of those tournaments replicate what we're going to see this week. You need to be a good iron player to win at Augusta. And the one thing that we've seen with Bryson over the years, even though he's been in contention, he's been first round leader, he was in the final group a year ago. His irons just go away from him. He doesn't seem to be able to keep it together all 4 days. The driving will be there, the putting will be there, but even if you get a slip on one of those, all of a sudden Bryson can blow up pretty quickly. Not that Rahm can't blow up, but I do trust his ball striking between driving and irons more than Bryson.
I definitely agree with you. I think the one place I'll push back is that it's hard to argue with Bryson's win equity. And actually, if you look at our simulation results over at FTN Fantasy, like you see, Rahm is more likely in our sims to finish top 5, top 10, top 20, top 40, and to make the cut. But it's Bryson who has the edge in actual win odds. He's second in our win odds, only behind Scotty. And so you give me that type of upside from somebody, and we're saying he's going to win 8% of the time. So you're trying to beat, 1,400 other people. If you get a low-owned guy with 8% chance to win, that's a really, really good play. So I think this decision between Bryson and Rahm, for one thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be a decision. You can play them both. We talked about how many lineups are going to have like 3 of the guys in this range or in the upper 8Ks. You can have 2 guys at 10K, and you're going to get a slightly different lineup, but the rest of the lineup can still be built from pretty strong players. We talked about how loaded that 7K range is. So it's pretty doable. And then you kind of get the best both worlds. You get this like incredible floor that Rahm is showing. But the sneaky thing about Rahm so far this year is that as well as he's played, he hasn't shown the type of ceiling that would win this week at Augusta. You know, if you take any of his performances, even his win on Live, and you insert it into the Masters, it's like a 4th place finish, a 5th place finish, something like that. So we haven't seen the spike from him. If you're playing Rahm, you're using him because the floor is spectacular. And Bryson's just essentially like the exact opposite. You're not using him for his floor. You're using him because when he plays well, he's got a very good chance to win.
I threw a lineup up on the screen, Tambo. Bryson with Rahm, English Scott, Nikolai, and Akshay. I think if you start Rahm Bryson, you can kind of do whatever you want.
You can. Yeah, funny enough, I had the exact same lineup with Siwoo over Akshay as like the example, because I know you'd been talking about those other guys just to get the example done. So we landed almost in the exact same spot. And that's the key component too. I think this is a common theme, especially when you go back to like the main lineups, Pat, of people building. What do? They start at the top most typically. Just like in baseball, people start with pitchers. In football, people start with quarterback. In golf, people start up top. And this is what forces the opposite of what you're building on the screen, where they're like, you know what? I have to decide between Rahm and Bryson. The projections show Rahm is like 5 points better. And it's a median projection, to Alex's point, top 5s, top 10s, etc. Yeah, probably more likely, but we're playing for the win equity here. So they make that decision early and then go down and start landing on, chalk options. And now you got Rahm at chalk plus the other chalk options, and you land in the more common build type versus starting with both of them, or saying, if I really like Minwoo, Siwoo, and Henley down low, I should probably just naturally pick Bryson because it's that close anyway. I've already got some chalky options down low. Let me get a little bit different up top and say it's not going to be the common build where Rahm fits so neatly into this. So it's all the part of the puzzle building, and we talk about all the time. But I think this double build with those two up top skips the entire 9-8, doesn't need a 6, and still doesn't have Rory or Scotty, and we would almost have to get one of these live battles up top with Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau. So could work out well, Pat.
Blickle, is it going to be Bryson or Rory that's lower owned?
Rory, almost certainly.
What do you make of Rory here? Did you know that a defending champion can't win?
I hate that trend so much. I think
listen,
eventually it's going to happen.
You told me you want a lane to push back on all this trend stuff. Now is your time. Box everyone out. It's all you.
All right. So the biggest thing to understand with these trends is that, and actually let me start with the Rory trend, because I think this one's a little bit different with this no back-to-back winners. It's really hard to win back-to-back because it's really hard to win, period. Once you have won last year, it's no longer like the task is no longer winning back-to-back. The remaining task is just win this year, which is still a very, very difficult thing to do. Only one guy every single year has a chance to defend. So, the best players, like Rory this week, is obviously one of the best players in the world. We only have 2 guys over 5% chance to win this week, Scheffler and Bryson. So there's less than a 5% chance pretty much every single year that the defending champ's going to win. It's just like not that weird of a outcome that no defending champ has won yet. And so when people say like a defending champ can't win here because they haven't, I think it just misses the fact that this is well within the range of probabilistic outcomes if there's no effect whatsoever of it being difficult to defend here. Now, there are actual arguments for why it's tough, but I don't think that they really apply to Rory. So for example, Rory came this week to do a lot of the drive, chip, and putt stuff. Rory has a lot of media obligations this year that he hasn't had in the past year because he hasn't been the defending champion. But Rory has won other major championships. So he already knows what this song and dance is like. He already has come up with a game plan for the week of and how to make sure he's prepared, even while he does all these extra things. So most guys who win, or a lot of the time the defending champion, has never won a major before, and he doesn't know what that kind of process is like. Rory does. This is familiar to him, and as many people have talked about, there's a chance that he's just so much more relaxed and free, and that this could actually be a really helpful thing for him. he's probably not going to win because it's unlikely that any like one specific player wins. And so it's unlikely that this narrative gets dispelled this year. But I think his chances to win are no worse than if he wasn't the defending champion, and they might even be a little bit better. So I don't like that narrative at all.
Tambo, you're a big trends guy.
Yeah. I'm most certainly not. Like, like, at the end of the day, like, just look at this stuff. It's all relative. We talk about it throughout the season. Alex just did a good job of that example. It's unlikely that any one golfer wins. Go look at the win equity and then compare the opposite side of it. At least you're going to be wrong a lot on that stuff, but it would shock nobody if we were hearing the call on Sunday around Rory being like, last year was what freed him up, and now the shackles are off or whatever, and the guy can go out and win it again, back to back. And it's, that just adds to his legacy even further. It's definitely possible. What most people are hating on is like the fact that, you look at how the lineups with the price, you can build Rory though with all those guys in the upper 7K range as an example too. But I think most people will look at like his most recent results and the fact that you don't see someone go back to back here. But to me, I'm not going to be big on that or high on that at all. I'm just looking at the game that we have this week at hand, building lineups accordingly. Rory will most certainly be, I'll have Rory more than Scotty, the way the lineup set up, just for the overall roster construction. The Rory lineup's that much better with the $2,400 savings.
I did want to point out that people are talking about Rory like, oh, the back injury is a real concern. I have no worries about Rory's back problem. Now watch him pull out after the first hole. But when he returned to the Players' Championship after withdrawing 4 days before, he was second in the field in driving, Alex.
Yeah, and his ball speed was right where it usually is. His warm-up was exactly what we expect from him. He was great everywhere except putting now. And the other thing was like he actually talked that week about the fact that it wasn't the full swing where it bothered him. It was standing over the ball like on and around the greens. And so the fact that he didn't putt well that week and it's not irrelevant. And there's a chance that he hasn't been able to practice as much as he usually does because of that discomfort. But it's also noteworthy that like he was really good with his short game that week as well. So at least like there are very encouraging signs in that regard. And it's been almost a month since then. So I'm not really concerned there. Do you want to hear what I have to say about the other trends?
Yes, I am very excited to listen. Everyone's been posting their trend stuff, myself included. Good for engagement. Engagement brings the monies.
Yeah, very, very true. And I made this point to you when we were texting, but like there are many people in the industry who they're not like huge golf fans and for whom the trends are actually going to be important. We Tambo and I have talked about this with Course Fit as well. It's a very similar argument where like my dad, for example, he's in the Pat Mayo one and done contest, and he does about 4 to 6 minutes weekly of research. That's the only stuff that he does. It makes sense for him to look at course history, and it makes sense for him to look at these type of trends. Why? Because they have some signal for what does well. And so like when you look at basically any hand-picked trend this week, 10 of the last 10 winners have done this, 20 of the last 25 have done that. The vast majority of them say good players play well here. And if you don't know who players are, simply looking at the trends and looking at who fits these popular trends that are going around are going to point you to good players. So if you're like my dad and you don't know much about golf and you don't know the players and you don't know their individual skill sets, course history, trends, those things are at least going to probably point you in a decent direction. But for anyone who's watching this show and for anyone who, has a weekly process already and plays PGA DFS or makes PGA bets every single week, and you already know things about these players and you do your own research on these players more than that 4 to 6 minutes per week that my dad does, you shouldn't be looking at trends because they're not adding anything of value. And to me, when someone posts a trend online, like there's a natural implication there that there's some effect to it beyond the talent of the player. And so like, for example, to me, there's an implication that if you find someone who projects well and you're looking at the simulations and he's at 2% in your favorite simulation, whether that's ours at FTN Fantasy or anyone else, maybe you're even your own, he's 2% to win. And he's, his odds in the market reflect that that's good value. There's an implication to me with these trends that if he doesn't fit them, that it doesn't matter that you're seeing value in the simulations, he can't win and he's therefore a bad bet. And to me, that's just not true whatsoever. And a lot of the trends, like there are even some things that you can learn from some of the trends. Like there definitely is, for example, more separation here at Augusta National between great players and good players and bad players. So our simulations are going to reflect that, right? Our simulations are going to show that the best players have more of a chance this week and really kind of box out a lot of the worst players in the long shot. So guys who are typically 100 to 1 in this field here at the Masters should be 150 to 1. But that's priced into the simulation. So for anyone that you're finding value in the simulation on, the trends don't matter. They're still good plays. And to me, like anybody who's not even necessarily just the people who are posting it, but anyone who's really referencing these trends as like a big part of their process this week, to me, there is an unspoken implication that the trends matter beyond what we can also just like bake into the data. And that, in my opinion, is very untrue.
Tambo, you said this earlier, that you're a direct and frank kind of guy when you called that lineup awful earlier. I'm going to try to translate this through because Blickle is the nice guy way of saying everyone's a fucking moron for looking at this stuff.
You did it. There you go. That's correct. So it is what it is. And I think you talked about it, Pat. Like, Tambo's tidbits died so every other thread could live, because this is the week that there's literally 15, 16 threads on Monday. Now there are 20 come out on Tuesday, and I get the engagement style of it all and understand that fully, obviously. But just noting it, it's like he said, it goes back to all of these trends. And the one that we said earlier, even too, like, oh, look at I think PGA Tour posted it, like the driving distance is key here. Yeah, guess what? The best golfers in the world are typically the best golfers in the world because one part of their game is that they can drive the ball. But there's a lot of other factors that really go with it. And that's actually not the stat that stands out the most when you look at everything else going on here. So it's really about complete game, all that. And for me, focusing on the DFS side of things, Pat, and you can translate it, and then you can extrapolate on it, use it for betting or make the cut parlays like you love and all that stuff, is I just keep saying it. But if the leaderboard on Sunday was Justin Rose, Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka, Corey Connors, and somebody else, Harris English or Adam Scott or something like that, would you be shocked? No, you'd be like, oh, that's pretty crazy. People are like, this is a nuts board. Even though Scotty's not there, Rory's not there, Bryson's not there, people would still be going crazy for those names, some former green jackets, et cetera, et cetera. Spieth moves the needle like crazy. And if that was the board, you could have played that lineup on DraftKings and like nobody had ownership in it, maybe one or two guys. And it can easily be up there. So just to give you an example of how this stuff can play out, that's why I look at that angle a lot more than the other stuff.
Blickle, I'm really bummed about the make the cut parlay. It's one of my favorite bets all year, and they've really kind of turned the screws on us here in terms of the pricing. It's not very good anymore.
Yeah, it's really hard. Maybe what you should do is just flip it and try to find a miscut parlay this year.
Who would you throw on that list? Like, just straight up. Guys that you don't like this week that you think might miss the cut. Who are good?
Brooks, Cam Smith.
Burns?
Are we building this?
Marco Penge. Let's see.
What's the optimal number? Did you look it up, Pat, or did somebody say it? Like, with like underdog pick'ems where we're like, okay, let's get, 3 for this or whatever. Like, did you look up what the miscut parlay is?
Yeah,
What's the number we need?
Listen,
5?
I have 1 point of reference here. The one I hit was a 14-legger, and it paid, well, I won over 20 grand on it. So there's your optimal amount, for me at least.
Okay.
I do have, you know what? Actually, I'll bring this up right now. I do have one boosted up here at coolbet.com. Hit the description if you're in Canada, outside of Ontario. You can go to the PME Weekly Boost. 2 boosts up here. Blickle, 27 to 1 on Xander. They're still letting it hang up there.
That's really nice. That's a great number. They're doing a favor for the people because, even with boosts, most of the time when a sportsbook does a boost, you're still not getting value. There's definitely value on Xander at 27.
So you hit the description right now. You can get the code to get your bonus there. Plus, you can play in these PME Weekly Boosts. The other one is Siwoo, Harris English, Akshay, and Spieth, all to make the cut, plus 275.
Yeah, that one's harder for me to price off the top of my head.
Well, we did it on I did it on another site when I did it on DraftKings, and it was plus 195 on DraftKings. So I got them to boost it up to plus 275.
Okay, so I mean, at least like relatively, that's good. I'd have to actually do some math to figure out where I would price it, but it's probably somewhere in that range.
Right,
who else did you say, Blickle? You said Brooks, Cam Smith, and Penge. I really liked where that one was going, but that's only like 20 to 1. We need to get to 100 here.
Well, so
make this worth it.
the problem with the miscut parlay that I feel the need to actually like say is there are only so many guys who can miss the cut at the Masters. So every time you add an additional guy, you're running out of spots. And so you're actually running into like an inverse correlation issue where the more guys you add, the more like, so for example, let's say that you already have, those 3 to miss the cut. There's a chance that's coming down the stretch and like you need, let's say Penge is in the last group. You need Penge to miss the cut, but you also need him to bogey so that your other guys who are, sitting T40 or T50 get bumped to T51 and don't make the cut. And so you're in this situation where like you need Penge to do poorly because if he makes the cut, you lose, but also you need him to bump someone else out. And so you're out of options. And so you just run into those inverse correlation scenarios if you do too many. So I don't know if we're going to get to a 14 leg parlay here of a miscut parlay, but we can certainly get, a 4th or a 5th, I think, before we run into any real strong issues. So
Pat, we're gonna break them in yet. Too nice, too logical. Like we don't care about that stuff. Like, oh, come on, this is a miss the cut parlay. Give us 2 more. That's all we care about here.
We need 3 more, and I'll build a DraftKings lineup out of it too.
Yeah,
true. Well, the other thing you can do, like, let's say you want a bigger payout, you could just do like 3 guys to miss the cut and then throw in a top 5 for somebody else. So you can still get the higher payout. There are ways to build something that's really fun and a really high payout where you're not just like really punching yourself in the throat in terms of what you can actually do.
I want my 20 grand on Friday evening during the Cut Sweat show. Okay.
Yeah. Fair. All right. Then you know what you can do? You can say Scotty's going to miss the cut.
Scotty's 10-1 to miss the cut, or 8-1 to miss the cut now. That probably gets you to 100-1 really quickly.
I think that might be the move because like he's obviously unlikely to miss the cut, but there is a scenario where he comes out, he's still not playing well, and the frustration just boils over. And what we've seen so far this year is when he starts slow, he gets frustrated, he chips in and goes on, a 4 birdies in the next 6 hole type of streak. But they've been ignited by these total luck box Spieth Magic Bean type things. And if the Spieth Magic Beans don't show up for him this week and the frustration is there, it could just go poorly for 36 holes and maybe he misses the cut. So if you want that huge Friday afternoon payout, that's my recommendation. Throw Scotty in the miscut parlay.
So I put up Scotty on the screen and I wrote about this in my giant column. You can get it on Substack in the description on X. It's completely free. And it had this graphic in it of him from year over year. You can see that the ball speed is actually up. The accuracy is down a bit. Distance is about the same, but he is over a stroke worse per round on approach this year than he has been in any of the previous 3 years. That is a wild number. And you can see the around the green and the putting are spiking. And when you take a look at his overall stats, Buckle, you're absolutely right that if he wasn't smoke, it's not that different than when we looked at Noren, but with better driving.
Yeah. And the other thing about it is that his ball striking issues, they started a little bit off the tee with a left miss. And now for the first time in years, we've seen that left miss because he's had a left miss off the tee. Like that's been his miss. And he has it so infrequently that he still has gained a ton of strokes off the tee in the last few years. But when he's struggled, when he has missed, it's pretty much always a left miss. This is the first time that the left miss has seeped into his iron play and it's driving him crazy. And he keeps missing with wedges. And when you think of Augusta, think of like all the shots where you can lose a ton of strokes in one swing. Most of them, the big miss is left. And so that can manifest in a couple ways. Number one, it can be that he just keeps missing left when he shouldn't and makes big numbers that way. But it can also be that he's so worried about the left miss that he just consistently blocks the ball right and blocks the ball right and blocks the ball right and can't commit to his swing. And now he's getting frustrated because he knows that he's not committing to his swing. And it's not an execution problem. It's just a commitment problem. And then he gets frustrated in a new way. And so that type of thing can spiral, especially when you're under the pressure of Augusta. And we know how much this tournament means to him. So I am by no means saying that Scotty is going to miss the cut and that these frustrations are going to boil over. I'm simply saying if you're trying to get to a plus 10,000, plus 20,000 type payout, this is the best way to do it rather than trying to find 15 guys who are going to miss the cut.
Did you make it, Tambo?
Oh God, I already fixed this for this guy. Talking about Scotty missing the cut. I get it all, but listen, he didn't like Sam Stevens. He didn't like Potgieter. That got it to 100-1. So the miss the cut Blickle parlay that I'm putting on here, the Blickle book beater is Brooks Koepka, Cameron Smith, Marco Penge, Sam Stevens, and Aldrich Potgieter, all 5 to miss the cut, 100-1 odds. There you go. Done.
That's
Phenomenal.
okay. What if you add Scotty?
Reuse selections. Add
both.
Scotty.
You know what? I'm playing both.
Because honestly, I would take Stevens out and I'd put Scotty in if you want the big payout.
Or you could just do both.
That's
Blickle,
true.
Both. Press it.
Okay. If
You know what? You'll never win a green jacket. This is your green jacket.
Listen, all I'm saying is if Scotty misses the cut and those other 4 miss the cut and you don't get this massive payout because you had Sam Stevens missing the cut, you're going to feel like an idiot after I said this.
You know what? I'll play 3 of them then.
There you go. That's a great option.
I just did it what he said. I put $30 on it to pay 11,000 and I'll give away 2,500 if that hits.
2,500 Canadian.
Well, yeah, sure. We'll do that. I was thinking like 20% was what I was trying to go for roughly, give or take. So it's like, yeah, I'm down for whatever, but I think it'll be fun. I think it's always good to go through that stuff, but yeah, like you said, there's different ways you can go about it, but I like the calls that you had there. So see how it shakes out.
Is Morikawa's number awful? If he just plays
actually,
like shit?
the book I'm using right now
Doesn't
that's
have
open
it.
365 days a year does not have it right now. So because they're not going to risk this back thing or whatever, probably if they don't have to.
Stevens.
Great question, though. That was a good thought.
Where is Stevens right now? I don't even see Stevens on here, Tambo.
Oh, he's on there.
What are his odds?
So he's switching Sam instead of Samuel.
Oh, there. I'm not typing it. There he's plus 150. Oh yeah, we got plus 910. So if I go $30 on that, it pays on. I want to get that up to 30,000. There we go. $35 pays 32,000. Let's go.
Kill the books again, man. That's light work for the 14 legger that you had. So
yeah, a 6-leg to miss the cut parlay featuring Scotty Scheffler. Now I'm going to play it again.
Why there's no restrictions on that bet right now.
Oh yeah. If anyone needs like a price, listen, I hit JJ Spawn last week, Tambo. I got money to burn.
For no reason at all. How much would you have to bet on that parlay to get back, let's say, $500,000 that maybe you owe somebody?
Oh, jeez.
It's only 400,000 he owes, I think. Paid 100.
We got the truth on that. Yes.
All right, I'll go $50 on the 100-1. I'm taking it easy this year on the I took Scotty off of it and played the other end of it. It only pays a loser $5,000.
Doesn't matter when you win the main event anyway, Pat,
Listen, I want to win them all. Okay.
Yeah. It won't matter. You're gonna win them all. It's nice. I'm excited for this, man. I can't wait for the main event. Big payouts, great structure, all of that. Anybody that can get in it, but 1,600 people and a lot of like a lot of people will have mass multi-entry just because they've got them through satellite tickets and things like that. I know there's some people in the Ship It Nation Discord have like 8 to 10 tickets, so there's all ranges of what people have. But that's why we got to play to win, Pat. We got to play these lineups that are unique and get different in a couple different ways with a little bit of separation in the actual picks and plays, and then definitely want to look at separation in the roster construction. I posted an article about that a couple weeks ago, so I think it's important to look at, even if you have less lineups, on how you can get different without being stupid. That's what I always call it.
Yeah, the other way I would try to swing this too is I'm free rolling this, Blickle. Because of you encouraged me to play in these qualifiers. Played 4 of them, won one of these $3,000 tickets. Like, what's it to me? Like, if I come in last, I spent $200 to try to get in.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of these satellites is like, I think we all know we're in this industry where, and actually, by the way, like you and Jeff talked about this on the Valero show. I thought it was an awesome conversation. Just like we probably don't talk as much as we should just about like the hazards of this hobby that we all love. But the satellites are this awesome way where you can really control your risk on a week-to-week basis, where you just can't lose that much money if you're just trying to chase these tickets. But you also have the highest ceiling that you possibly can in DFS, because when you do well, you're going to give yourself opportunities to literally win $1 million in 1 week. And that's really cool. And I think that more and more people seem to be playing these satellites because it's getting harder and harder to actually get into the satellites because they fill so quickly, especially for showdowns. So that's been really awesome to see. Everyone's kind of catching on, and I think it's probably like one of the most fun and rewarding parts of DFS as well. And so it's really cool to see how many more people are doing it. And it's awesome to see how many people in the Discord have won tickets, that you've won a ticket. I know Tambo's got some. I need to get one. I've got a couple more chances in the MLB streets for this weekend. If I don't, that's going to be fine. And I'll try and get, multiple for the PGA Championship. But really cool to see. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch everyone sweat this week, even if I'm not in it.
Summer's almost here, which means you're either hosting people, pretending to know how to cook, realizing that your house hasn't been updated since Tiger Woods' first Masters win. That's where Wayfair comes in. Way Day is running April 25th through the 27th. We're talking up to 80% off everything with fast and free shipping. I went full upgrade mode. Cleaned up the space, added some modern pieces, got the patio ready for Sunday sweat season. And now it actually looks like not only one adult, but 2 and 3 kids live here at the moment and can have guests over. And it's completely safe in the backyard for those kids. If you're hosting or just want your setup to look better while you yell at your bets, this is the move. Way Day is the sale to shop the best deals in home. We're talking up to 80% off with fast and free shipping on everything. Head to wayfair.com April 25th through the 27th to shop Way Day. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Season's changing, which means I need to flip my entire wardrobe. And I looked at my closet and I started thinking, why do I own so much junk that I never actually wear? I've been trying to scale it back. Fewer things, but better stuff. And honestly, that's why I keep going back to Quince over and over. Their pieces just make sense. The fabric feels legit, real quality, not that fake premium marketing nonsense that they send me on Instagram. That stuff sucks. What you want is super breathable, really comfortable clothing that looks sharp without trying too hard. Even the Flow Knit activewear. That's the sneaky one for me. It's soft, moisture wicking, doesn't stink, and you can wear it all day and not feel gross, which is a big win for me. The kicker is the price. It's like 50 to 60% less than what you'd expect to pay for this level of quality because they cut out the middleman and go straight to the source. So you're not paying for a logo, you're paying for good clothes. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/mayo for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/mayo. Quince.com/mayo. All right, let's talk about something no one in endurance sports likes to admit. You can be training your ass off, cardio, stress, not recovering properly, and yeah, it can mess with your performance everywhere. Because it all comes back to blood flow. Most guys jump straight to pills. That's just treating the symptom. The real key is nitric oxide. That's what controls circulation, endurance, and yeah, performance. That's why Joy Mode actually makes sense. It's a natural booster that supports nitric oxide production, not the fake pixie dust stuff. Just tear open a packet, mix it like an electrolyte drink, and you are good to go. Use it when you need it, or use it daily to raise your baseline. Think of it like training. One dose helps, consistency changes everything. If you want to support sexual performance the same way you support training and recovery, naturally and intelligently, Joy Mode has a deal for my listeners. Go to tryjoymode.com/mayo or enter Mayo at checkout for 20% off. Joy Mode, the electrolyte packet for your dick. If you want to join Blickle's Discord, you can get that link down in the description right now. Highly recommend it. I'm in there too. I showing off my wins. It was great. I'm just tailing what Alex is telling me about NBA and MLB, printing on Underdog. And you can print on Underdog too with code Mayo, by the way. 2 more things here before we get back to ownership and some pivot plays that I want to go through very quickly. One, I've tried these like viral threads so far this week. I've put out 3 of them. 2 of them hit, but the one that actually had like cool information, no one like read. It was really weird.
That's
sure. I saw your Masters history one you're talking about.
I thought that one was really good. I put some time into that one.
That stuff, Pat. We want easy buttons. That's why I gave Blickle shit earlier. I've been there. Trust me. Even with DFS Mastermind, it's the same way. There's a very awesome group of loyal people that are excited about it, that want to learn and get better. But the world that we live in is looking for that big red easy button, and you giving history doesn't really help them with shit. They don't want to go back to school for a day. They want to just get the picks, get the first round leaders, get the plays. Let me know who's going to win me the money this week. That's all they care about.
That, by the way, is why like I go on the anti-trends rants, because we are unfortunately in an industry where like the least helpful content is often the content that blows up the most. And like the really annoying one is, I don't know if you saw this, but there are a couple Twitter accounts that are known for doing these like viral threads, and it's just kind of junk and almost AI spam at this point.
All those people have been on this show, Blickle, all right? And they're my pals. Holka, Sal. I know what they're doing, and they're making so much money doing it, and it sucks.
Yeah, so much. And it's so unhelpful for people. Like people who see that, who haven't seen it before, and they think this is really valuable information. This is information that's going to make me money. No, it's information that's literally going to lose you money, and you think it's really helpful. And anything that I can do, no matter how small, to hopefully try and help people get on the right track and maybe get to a point where, you know, the more helpful content does better, I think that's good for everybody.
There's no better night ever than now to spend $20 to turn it into $1,000, Tambo.
Oh, I don't know if you know this, Pat, but this is the easiest money you'll ever make. I'm putting 1,000 on this. Follow thread.
Adone put one out that I thought was very interesting, and I have my thoughts on it. And Blickle, obviously, you're a much better golfer than Tambo and I, and I'll get to you second. But Tambo, you get one chance at Augusta National, playing from the tips in tournament conditions, to make a par on any hole. Which hole would you choose?
I think I was with you on 12. You said 12 and 16. I was on 12.
I just think if you're, and Blickle, you're what, like a +2 handicap?
Yeah, but I'm not hitting it on 16. Like everyone's like, oh, 16, no brainer. I'm like, buddy, I'm in the water easy. First of all. Second of all, even if I get it on that green, you think I'm two-putting that? No way. No chance.
Well, I think it's 12 or 16 because it's basically the only flat lie you're going to get to hit an approach shot into. I see people saying 13. That's fucking mental from the tips. What do you, like, everyone out there on Twitter? Oh, they all drive the ball 350 yards? Get there in two putt. No, pretty make birdie on that hole. No fucking chance.
It's why important we get it from Blickle.
Let me hit a 7-iron into 16 and hope it works out.
I think it's 8, and I think it's so obviously 8 that any other answer is ridiculous.
Yeah, but how am I, so let's say I hit my drive. Let's say I carry 250 off the tee. That's uphill. It goes 250. And then what am I looking at? 400 in? Like, I now have to hit a good drive. I have to hit a good 3-wood, and then I still have an iron left basically to get in there.
I don't think that's correct. I think even if you're, for one thing, like it's not that long of a hole. It's not 650. I think at most it's like 560, 580, something like that. The problem is how uphill it is. But there are two things really working in the amateur's favor in this scenario. The first is that I don't think you can even reach the bunker on the right-hand side that can, like, really stymie these players and make them chip out. So you're fine there. And then I don't think people realize how wide open that hole is. You can hit it so far right and be fine. And it would be like, even if you, let's say you hit one left off the tee into those trees, you can still probably punch out to an area where you're going to have a similar distance as what you would get on 16, the answer that a lot of people were giving. But now you get a big green with kind of slopes on either side of the green that take you towards the green. So when you miss the green, you're going to have like a very, either you can putt it from off the green, or you're going to have just a long flattish putt. And the alternative is that you're a hole where when you miss the green, you're in the water or you're in the bunker and short-sided and you've got zero chance whatsoever. I think people are mental for saying 16. You guys aren't hitting 16, that.
Okay, can I say, that's what I was just about to say. It's called red bud. I'd be dead, bud. That's what I've seen pros, these professionals hit it to like 3 feet. We're like, oh, so close to a hole in one. It rolls right up and miss that putt. Even if I could get it on that green, there is no chance I'm two-putting that for the par. So that's why I said 12 to Pat's point. It's like the Tiger or Jack Nicklaus thing. Like, listen, don't be an idiot. Like the year Tiger came back and won, and every freaking dude, what was it, like Hovland, Finau, Molinari, everybody went for the pin and went in the water. It's like you go for the center of the green, you putt it over close and tap it in. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm hoping happens. But you're saying the yellow jasmine is the way to go. Hole number 8.
I think
no chance of hitting the 12th green. Zero
chance.
0.001.
Damn.
I would just take the fewest amount of shots that I have to hit, the less. I mean, a ton can go right. A ton's probably not going to par any of these holes. However, I'm just thinking that on a par 5, I have to hit 3 good shots at the Masters to get on the green, and then I need to 2-putt. I'm not getting there in 2 on any of these.
I don't think you need to hit 3 good shots. I think you just need to hit 1 of the 3 well, and you'll be in the vicinity of the green in 3.
So then it's a wedge shot.
He's on to something here, Pat. It makes way more sense, right? We get more strokes to play with. I mean, funny enough, Alex finally gets direct and blunt when it comes to golf strategy talk. It's like how you actually play the hole. He's like, you idiots, you think this? You would never do that. But it does make sense. You got to have 1. It's wide open. Just drive it to wherever. Hit your second shot as far as you can possibly hit it. Still pretty wide open. And then you still have a chance to get to a par from there. It doesn't mean it's easy, but I get what he's saying.
To that point, I think the only like alternate answer that I would accept, as if I have like the authority here, would be number 2, because there at least you can then say like, you can't say that the distance is an issue because you just drive it in front of the bunker and then straight downhill. So like you can top a 3-wood and roll down the hill far enough. The problem is that green complex is just going to destroy people.
Yeah, it just if I was actually going back and watching yesterday, and a lot of it has to do with the pin placement too. Let's say I gave you the regular Sunday pin on 16, where if you hit it into the hill, it might just roll back to the cup.
I'm not going to choose that hole because you're not going to hit the green.
So just no one can ever hit the green on 16. It's impossible.
These greens are so much smaller than you think. Like
I get that, but they're all smaller than I think that they are.
I don't know.
It's a 170-yard shot into a green. I feel like 1 out of 10 times I can hit the green.
To me, the point is which hole's the most forgiving of misses, and 16's not forgiving of misses. It's really penalizing of misses.
Yeah, but I think you're thinking about this too much as someone who is in the 1%, the 1%ers out here, Alex Blickle, who are awesome at golf. The rest of us are going to hit bad shots. We have to factor in as if we hit a good shot, what is the easiest for us to do?
That's why I still think he said number 8's the way. Number 2 is not the way, by the way. All I can remember is Rory a few years ago when we thought it was going to be his time to get the job done. It's like, oh, Rory for eagle. This is a huge opportunity here. It's like 8 feet par. Oh, congrats. Like that's the worst start you could have to win like a chance to close out the Masters when you need this thing. So I'm with you. I think he sold me, Pat. It's number 8, AKA the yellow jasmine. Hit a good shot, hit the ball, and then hit a good shot versus try and aim for like one of these small greens on these par 3s and hope that you land it perfectly and are still then able to 2-putt. I don't know. The rollback is interesting, but man, you need a good first shot.
One of 3 shots. If you hit 1 of 3 shots well on 8, you're going to be in the vicinity of the green. And then no matter where you are around that green, you can putt it. Like I'm thinking about what happens when you make mistakes, not like how perfect do you need to be to make the par.
Yeah, but you're good. But anyone who is over a 5 handicap is gonna need to be perfect to make a par on one of these holes.
I don't think they will. I think they just need to hit one. I think if you hit like 2 of those 5 shots well, no matter what 2 of those are, I think if you hit 2 of those 5 shots well, you can make par.
All I know is this is great content, but let's make it for a course that we could actually go to and try this out versus one we'll never get to play on most likely for the majority of us. So let's do that.
8 does make the most sense of the par 5s. I think either the lie that you get on number 2 downhill sucks, or I was saying, I went back and watched it. Xander hit his second shot to like 5 yards in front of the right bunker to the right pin on Sunday in 2019. And then he had to hit essentially like a 20-yard flop shot that had to stop instantly. And he still rolled it like 10 feet past. They're like, what am I doing from there?
Yeah, I don't think that 2 is the answer. But if the only argument against 8 was the distance, then 2 at least gets you that downhill roll. All
right, so 8, I still think I would take my chances on the par 3s. Even like the 240-yard par 3. Hit a fucking hybrid into it and hope it sticks.
I'm rolling with Alex on 8. And I think, Alex, I know you were against the thread boys, and I'm with you. Always trying to help others, make money, especially with DFS. It's my number one passion. But if you want to go, what about the YouTube Golflandia? You could go into that and get in on that side of things and do YouTube golf.
Or you could just put a thread. You can rank each of the holes as an amateur, the easiest to par.
Yeah. That's good content. I also love the idea that you and Keith had before the season, Pat, of doing like a lesson and having having Keith giving lessons and he gives a lesson to Tim, and then I'm right next to him on the range, and people would just see the difference of us hitting. And I'd be worried about my shins getting hit if Tim was behind me, but that would be a lot of fun. And I think people would really enjoy that type of content too.
I agree. I'm working on something like that. All right. So here's the finalization of the DraftKings stuff. I want to go through each of these from $8,000 and up, and I want to try to figure out which players are going to be the most owned. So in the 10,000 area, I'm pretty convinced, as we've been talking about, it's Jon Rahm above the other three by a pretty large margin. Do you think that he would be double what the next closest guy is?
I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's going to be
the ownership for FTN. So let's hear it.
Yeah, I think it's something like that where he's going to be like the very clear cut option up here. I think he'll be double like Bryson and maybe even more than double Rory. Where I think guys could get closer to him is below him, where Oberg, Schauffele, those guys could push him as well.
So if we think about the $9,000 area, Tambo, in my mind, it's Xander, Ludwig, and then Young and probably Fleetwood. Although I think that Rose carries ownership. I don't think that Morikawa carries any. And I just don't think that people are going to get to Patrick Reed at $9,000.
They're not. Some people still think he's on live, actually. I saw. So it's like they don't know anything about this guy. But anyway, yeah, you said it perfectly there. Alex said it great as well. Like it's the guys below that. So this is what is, just for my 2 cents, adding it from the roster construction side of things. That's what makes the lineups with that either start with Fleetwood or Young, or Fleetwood and Young and Rose, or something along those lines, or even starting with Rose. That's what makes them more unique, because if nobody's really on Rory, Scotty, and Bryson up top, and you don't want the Rahm, Ludwig, Xander ownership, you can get like the secondary ownership level in Fleetwood and or Young, and then drop down from there. And you could start hitting on guys like McIntyre, Spieth, and some of the guys that like we'll talk about 2 seconds where no one's going in the 8K range.
Well, Blickle, do you think that's giving up too much win equity if you start with a Tommy Fleetwood, who I might bet to win?
No, I don't, because I think Tommy himself has decent win equity, and really like the only guy that you're giving up a ton of win equity to is Scotty, and Scotty lineups just once again, like they don't seem great to me. So I don't think you're giving up too much win equity with like any build this week.
That's the key that he just said, Pat, is the win equity that you see in like a Rory or a Scotty could also not be your DFS win equity. Like people ought to assume, and yeah, in the big $10 with 410,000 people, someone probably finds the combination of, if Scotty wins, they're going to have a version that hits with it. And again, it depends what everything else does. But if you have a lineup that has like Fleetwood, Young, Decky, McIntyre, like you left a bunch of guys out up top, but you have a really strong lineup and a chance that if it's not one of them winning, someone's coming from there, but also a lineup that has a better chance probably all around. So that's the other component.
So of the 9K pivots, it does seem like Morikawa, Rose, and Reed will be slightly lower than Tommy, Young, and then Xander and Ludwig probably the higher owned of that group. In my mind, I think Reed is the better pivot than Rose.
I like Rose better, but I'm fine with either. I think they're both priced accordingly, and it makes less people go to them because they're not 8,900 and 8,800. They're 9 and 91. That's my thoughts. I'd be interested to hear Alex.
Yeah, Reed is the really interesting one to me, because we've at least like seen Rose in this price range before, so we already know that people like do still say, okay, the win equity is enough, where even though he's not going to project well in basically any model around the industry, like he's going to get some ownership still. I don't know what people are going to do with Patrick Reed, because historically, like you think of the last few years, everyone knows his success in majors, or at least at the Masters, but he's been priced in the 7,000s and he's been chalk like every single time. What does the price bump all the way up to 9,000 do? I have no clue what that answer is, where people might just be locked into the fact that they say, Patrick Reed plays well here, I'm going to play him at the Masters. Or are people saying, okay, this is just a price that I can't do it, and he ends up like 5% in a really, really solid play? I don't know what the answer is going to be.
The answer is that it's the opposite. I think it's like I know exactly what's going to happen with his ownership. I don't know what he's going to do just based on what we've seen and what he's done like in the past at this event, and what he's done recently. So I have a harder time figuring that out. But I mean, no one can go to him. It's almost impossible here with all the guys above him in the 9K, and then we're about to get to the 8s where Fitzpatrick, I think, could end up being one of, if not the highest owned on the slate, because he fits every build. And then you still have people that like Hideki, that like Bobby Mack, that like the guys in the upper seven. So it's just like, it's not going to be a spot that they can land on Patrick Reed.
Reed has 2 wins in a second. He hasn't played a competitive golf tournament in a while, but he's been doing that on the DP World Tour. His past Masters results, starting from last year, Blickle, 3rd, 12th, 4th, 35th, 8th, 10th, 36th win. It's pretty good.
Yeah. And so, I haven't done the course history rant yet, and maybe I don't need to, but the thing with Reed's history here is that he's a great fit for the course. This is a course where distance doesn't matter as much as usual, and every other skill set is more predictive than usual. Reed has one weakness. It's his distance. The rest of his game is really, really good.
8K range. Tambo mentioned Fitzpatrick. I think that Bobby Mack will be hurt by being just next to Fitzpatrick, but I do think that he will be the second highest owned unless Spieth or Goddard can get there. That leaves us with Hideki, Victor at 89 and 88, Brooks at 85, JT, Lowry, and Hatton. I do feel, Tambo, that one of those guys is going to end up in a Millie winning lineup.
Yeah, very possible. The clear cut for me is like Hovland, Brooks, JT, Lowry, Hatton, and Straka. Those 6 for me stand out as like no chance that they can get to a high number of ownership here, because I think people will still play Hideki. We know what they're doing with Fitz and Bobby Mack. Like we said, Bobby Mack might be slightly less, but yeah, he's going to be in there. I still think people play Spieth. I think that everything you said about what could be possible for Reed, like when Alex said, maybe some people just play him because, I think that's kind of how Spieth fits in here at 8,400. And then I think if anyone's going to a debutant or someone down in the 8K range low, it's probably Goddard up, just with how his season's gone and his upside and win equity and those factors that people consider. But Straka, Hatton, Lowry, JT, Brooks, and Hovland look completely overlooked here.
Where would you think that the better pivot is here, Blickle? Is it Hovland?
I think he's really solid. If Hideki slips through the cracks, he's the easy answer for me. If he's 15 to 20% and you're looking for more contrarian, I think that the two that really stand out to me are Spieth and JT. Either of them could get ownership. I don't think they're both going to get ownership. And
JT's getting none. JT's going to be like 6% owned.
Yeah.
I think you're right about that. And he's intriguing to me because number one, he's a good fit for the course. Number two, like when he plays well, it's explosive scoring. It's get to the top of the leaderboard. Even at the Players, T8 out of nowhere. And so he's one of those guys that like, I don't feel like I need to see any type of form from, but we kind of did. And so I definitely like the upside there for the low ownership and the low price.
JT has been a struggle bus at the Masters the past 3 years. T36 and 2 missed cuts. But now he has no expectation.
Am I remembering, Pat, you're the best for the memory on this stuff. I always just like try and think of these things. It's kind of funny. Wasn't this when there was the big delay?
Yeah.
Or was that and he was like talking on the mic during the rain, or was that one of the other majors? And then he missed the cut after he was like talking like he was about to make it.
I think that was the Brooks and Rahm year when they were in the five. I think that was 2 years ago. He missed the cut. Yeah. They came back to him. He had to finish early on Saturday morning and just flailed out.
He did like an interview and was talking about, well, it's going to be good on the weekend though, once we get through this and da-da-da. It's like, yeah, he didn't even make the cut, pal. Like, hit the road. But what about Brooks? Everyone went and got all those futures tickets on him. And this is, isn't this the spot? You got to go back to Brooks Koepka here.
Well, I think there are three separate arguments when Cust ranked him as his most likely guy to not win the Masters. All of a sudden, you boost him up in the rankings a little bit when Cust says things like that. But his tee to green has been good. His putting has been awful. This is historically a place where bad putters can come in and all of a sudden putt. My issue with Brooks here, Blickle, is that I just don't think he's a good course fit for Augusta.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think going back to JT for a second, we just got to talk about like what a perfect case study he is on course history. Because starting in 2017, 22nd, 17th, 12th, 4th, 21st, 8th. So this is a guy who always plays well here, right? Cut, 36th. Maybe course history doesn't tell the story that you think it does.
Only when you want it to.
Only when you want it to. Come on, pick and choose, Blickle. What are you doing?
I hate course history. Everybody knows that.
So I think Brooks is interesting. I just think there are other options. Like, do I think that Lowry has a better chance of winning than Brooks? No. Do I think that Lowry has a better chance of being a better DraftKings play than Brooks? Yes. And at this range, I'm not necessarily looking for the winner anymore, where we were talking about that Rahm versus Bryson with your first or second guy, and the win equity is so much more on Bryson than Rahm. But as you mentioned, Blickle, that the top 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 made cut all exist with Rahm. But at that point, you're playing for the guy to win. I don't feel like I would like my guy to win at this range. That's just more unlikely than likely.
Yeah, I think I very much agree with your take there. And the thing is, like, you probably don't need to rely on an $8,500 player to win for that guy to pay off, right? Like, there's a good chance that spot in your lineup, you're just asking for a T20, make the cut, finish top 20, and make some birdies. And I like Lowry to do that more than I like Koepka to do it.
Seb Straka flop leg, Tambo, after being the guy last week.
Really interesting. Yeah, I was going to bring, that was one of the spots earlier when I brought up like how Blickle kind of pointed out the Novak versus Stevens conversation. I think there's an interesting one to be had with Straka Goddard, right? Obviously Goddard has 2 wins this season, but what do those have to do with the Masters? It's hard to say. It's like, he's been in the contention like Blickle brought up earlier, but Straka, we always know and love. He's got history here. It's not great, but just noting it, he's played it the last 4 years. So just thinking up from that perspective, there was definitely times throughout this season when people were talking up Big Sep and, 2nd, 8th, 13th, couple, a few really good results there. I don't think anyone goes to him if they're choosing. It's going to be Goddard up, and it's more likely just going to be dropping down to Henley or going to one of those other guys with Siwoo, Connors, Minwoo, or all of them together. So yeah, I think Sep goes overlooked here as well.
So from this bottom range of that upper sevens, and I think this is where it's going to be very important to try to dictate the ownership if you do want to alleviate some pressure on your lineup, Alex. Akshay, Siwoo, Minwoo, Connors. Rank those guys, and Henley. Those 5 guys. Now, Tambo, you know all about ranking 5 guys, but now it's up on the screen. It's Blickle has them up on the screen so we can see it. What order did those guys go in terms of ownership, and who is the most likely to get squeezed and actually not end up with a ton?
Oh man, ownership is really tough. My initial thought was that Henley would be the highest, but I actually think it might be Minwoo, and then probably Henley, then Siwoo, then Connors would be my ranking there.
So you think that Akshay is the one who gets squeezed?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think that he'll be low owned, but I don't think that he's going to be as high as the others, just because like I know for a fact that most sites are going to have Henley and Siwoo projected a lot better, and Minwoo as well.
Yeah, Minwoo in the betting market right now, Tambo, is surging. I saw him at 30-1 this morning.
Yeah, people love him right now. It's he's a candidate for the highest owned too at 7,700, just because he obviously fits every build at that point. And, just like the Fitz conversation earlier, my biggest interest here is like a couple, Connors, who people always love, the course history darling. He's the same price as Minwoo. So people are going to choose that, the recent form or the what we've seen from Minwoo and play him here instead. And then also we talked earlier about making, putts as, us at, high handicaps and amateurs and whatnot, but don't putts get a lot easier for Akshay when you can just anchor, Pat? Makes it real simple around here. So him at 7,800 when everyone's on, all the dudes around him should be a good spot. And by the way, people had AI generated images of Akshay wearing green jackets just a few weeks ago and all this stuff. So I don't know, man. What's your thoughts on Akshay too? Akshay's another one that kind of has to go overlooked, I think, just based on those around him.
I think Akshay is the best play of these guys.
What, better than Cantlay?
Yeah. Better than Cantlay.
Okay, just checking.
But I think there is an interesting part here. Like if you just want, I think that Akshay or one of these guys. This is why I ask that. I do think that Minwoo is going to be the most. I'm not hearing as much buzz about Henley as maybe you are, Alex. And maybe the projections will spit him out, and that's why he'll end up being very high. It's just he seems so bland that, from my experience when it comes to this, Tambo, you as well, and I think Corey Connors is starting to fall into this a little bit. It's just more fun to pick the more exciting guy.
Yep, that's what people like.
Without looking, how many top 20s would you guess that Henley has in his last 15 starts?
11.
Tambo, you want to throw out a number?
That seems high. I was going to say like 7.
13.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like every start this year, Russell Henley has, or Harris English has finished between 20th and 30th, except one.
So the other weird thing about Henley is like the only 2 in his last 15 that he wasn't top 20, he missed the cut. So you're getting like, it just shows that when he plays well, he's playing super, super well, and he's playing consistently. So he basically, what I'm saying is if Henley's not the most popular in this range, he's going to be in my lineup. I think that as the week goes on, people are going to realize like, oh man, he's better than I thought he was. And he's been priced a lot higher than this basically every single time he's played over the last year and a half. And so this, like, his price to me was the first thing that stood out when I looked at pricing. Maybe the field doesn't feel the way about him that I do. And if that's the case, then I'm going to be really, really happy to play him.
Yeah, he has one top 5 at the Masters in his career. But what I want to go back and look at here is like when you take a look at U.S. Open, 10th, 7th, 14th. Open Championship, cut 19th, 10th, or that's Valero. Open Championship, 10th, 5th, cut 62nd. So the past 2 years, overall, he has just been playing great at major championships outside of the PGA Championship, which apparently he sucks at. But I thought that was interesting that it's not only like, because Byron points to this as well, like when you see winners, guys that play well at majors, and this is to your point earlier, Alex, guys that play well at majors, they have that. They can deal with that pressure a lot easier of being at a major than guys that are new to it. Some guys can overcome that right away, but having that experience, having those reps does mean something if you're constantly just churning out good results at major championships.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure basically has one of two effects. Either it helps you kind of hone in and be present and enhance your focus, or it distracts you from that process because you're thinking too much about the moment and how much that moment means to you. That, like, pressure is real, obviously, and the effect of pressure is real. And so there's definitely some signal in who has dealt with it well in the past. Now, that doesn't mean that someone who hasn't in the past can't figure it out, right? Like if you looked at my personal performance in big tournaments, like there was a long learning curve, right? It took a long time for me to learn how to play well in those types of environments. And that's true. That's true of a lot of guys. And so it doesn't mean that someone who has done poorly with this type of pressure in the past will continue to do so. But it definitely does mean that someone who has handled it well in the past is likely to continue to handle it well into the future.
Tambo, Cantlay, Ben Griffin, Jason Day. I know your answer is Sung Jae of the pivot play, and Cam Smith and Nikolai. And is Nikolai going to be popular? Because he should be.
I don't know. It feels like a few people, sort of once he came out in the secondary pricing, right? When DraftKings actually has to email you about the guys that are making the field, and instantly people were plugging him in to lineups. I do think like that range is overlooked, but when people land there, that's who they land on as the example there. But we forgot Russell Henley too. #dog, right? Everyone's got to play him for that reason too. So there's a lot of different reasons that people could end up there, but I was surprised by 13 top 20s. It's not just Sung Jae. I actually think, all jokes and clothing deals aside and whatnot, I still think Jason Day is interesting as well at his price tag, and just what could happen here and what he's done in the past. It's like a miscut, a 30th, or it's a top 10. And then even recently, with a decent result and finish. So I don't know, maybe he's dialing in for this, but I think all those guys are pretty overlooked for certain.
Yeah, top 10 for Jason Day last year here's the weird thing. Like when you take a look at his numbers at the Masters, he has lost ball striking in 5 consecutive years, Blickle, but he's made the cut 3 of those 5 times.
His putting is just, it's a cheat code. Actually, his short game too is a bit of a cheat code. And the thing about Day's like style of chipping is it works extremely, extremely well here off these tight lies. And so it's not surprising to see how consistently well he's done around the greens here.
He's driving the ball better this year than he has been in previous years, and that's really been his bugaboo at Augusta. He's just terrible at driving.
Man, he's like,
good time.
And it's a totally different era now of Jason Day. But remember when he was really good, like family running onto the golf course every week when he would win and stuff, and it was like, how many times did you fade Jason Day and need him to suck and miss something, and it just every chip to 2 feet and like tap ins and all this stuff? It's like, man, his short game, like you talked about, can be a cheat code, and it looks pretty good right now. So I think he's at least somewhat interesting as another guy that could just grind through, and yeah, might not get you the win, but at that price point, it's like a top 10 is going to do just fine for you. So I'm good with that.
Because we've dropped so much into the 72, because that's what remains when we went the 3, or if we went with Scotty, or even Bryson, Rory, it drops you to 73, 72. And in this range, it seems like Adam Scott's going to be very popular. We spoke on this earlier. JJ Spawn, Harris English, maybe Woodland, who interestingly enough is there. But then you have Knapp and Bridgman, who, I mean, no one has been better on a per shot basis this year, strokes gained total, per round basis, than Jake Knapp. He's played here before. It feels like it's smoke and mirrors because it's Jake Knapp, but no one is, after people wanting to bet him, people wanting to play him, I don't know if anyone's going to go to Jake Knapp.
I feel that way.
I think this whole range, like Knapp, Bridgman, and Burns, could all be really low owned and really strong plays. And the thing I like about all of them is they have a real scoring ceiling too, where like when they play well, you know they're going to play well because they're pouring in the birdies. Maybe they're making some eagles on the par fives, and Bridgman and Burns especially. Like if you need somebody to make a key putt down the stretch, there aren't many in the field, if any, that you trust more than those two. So very, very interested in both of them.
How about you, Tambo?
Yeah, he actually said a lot of the same things I was going to say. Apologies for cutting you off there, but I would say, like, funny enough, now you go back, do the Henley game for Bridgman, and I can only see 8 results on my screen, and all 8 of them are top 18 or better. So it's like, whatever we're playing that game with Henley earlier, I get it, it's totally, but a lot of people would look at that and say, what events is it at? And, what is he actually doing well? It's like, I thought he would have been a lot more popular coming in. It feels like just the way the constructions go, guys like Knapp, Bridgman, and Burns just won't get the ownership or can't get it the same as the guys in the upper 7s.
Would you trust Knapp or Bridgman more looking at their profiles? Because you take a look at Bridgman's, no finish outside of T18 this year. He won at Riviera. He was top 5 at the Players. And they're both doing it with different parts of their game. Bridgman's driving it well. He spikes with his irons, and he's just been putting the lights out. With Knapp, he's going to drive it at an elite level, and he's been putting at an elite level. I'm not sure about the games in between. With Bridgman not having seen Augusta before, does that worry you that maybe this isn't the week he gains 10 strokes putting and all of a sudden he's no good anymore?
I think the limiting factor for their putting is more the fact that most of these greens, like your first putt you're hitting is not a putt that you're trying to hole. It's just something you're trying to get within 3 feet because the undulations are so difficult. And so the fact that he makes so many putts from like that 15 to 20 foot range, it's just really hard to do that here. You've kind of got to get into that 8 to 12 range before you can really start thinking about making a bunch. But that can also work in his favor if, he's consistently giving himself, 6 footers for par when others would be 8 feet and they're missing and he's just making all of them. And so it can work both ways. I think Bridgman is probably the one that I trust more.
Yeah.
I think that Knapp has maybe a better profile as a winner here, Tambo. Like if you were and we don't need these guys to win. I think Jake Knapp is a bit more volatile, but I would expect a higher end finish from him, as strange as that sounds.
It's fair. And that's a good tournament play, right? Based on everything you just said. It's like you can still get the good result, but you can get the really high ceiling at him as well. Just the big thing for me, and again, it's recent form more than the course history, so at least I'm not going with that trend, but just noting it back. Like when you pulled up Bridgman's game log, if you will, of like, looking at that looks like it could be long to Scotty Scheffler at some point. It looks like it could belong to like a totally different golfer than you would suspect it being Bridgman, like a win at the Genesis, a top 5 at the Players, all these other results that he's had. It's not like he's doing it in these shitty events. He's doing it in real places and getting all the way there, getting the W, like taking down these top 5s, things like that. So, Knapp, a bunch of top 10s, but like you said, it does feel like that profile that fits in. Obviously, he's seen it, so gonna have to wait and see how it plays out. But you can play both. They're both in that lower, upper to the upper 7K range is so popular. They're just below that, where I think they're gonna get talked about a lot. But how often do they get played is yet to be seen.
So this is what Knapp did in his debut. Bridgman's obviously never played. Knapp played in 2024. Blickle, I would argue that Knapp is a better player now than he was then. And you saw the spikes. You didn't see any of the putting spikes, but his putting's been great this year. The chipping I would worry about, but he had 2 rounds. I mean, this last round where he gained 2.3 strokes on approach, gained almost 1 on approach in round 1, gained over a stroke off the tee in round 1. All the elements are there for him to do this and churn out a T8 or something.
Yeah, I actually used him that week. And I believe I remember him making a bunch of birdies, and it was just that like there were so many bogeys. And I was actually going to say that about like the comp with Bridgman, where I like Bridgman's ability to avoid bogeys better, but I think I like Knapp's ability to make a bunch of birdies at Augusta more.
All right. You guys will be doing a show together on the Ship It Nation YouTube channel. Everyone should go sub over there on Wednesday morning. And what else do you have going on at shipitnation.com, Tambo?
A lot. We got the Stone 2.0 is coming out this week. I've been teasing it, but that's our main cheat sheet. It's a legacy piece from our late friend, Degenerate75, who brought that over when we did the merger year and a half, almost 2 years ago now. So we've got some updates coming to that, but you can check it out. $19 for a trial, or you can get in on one of the other plans. And then Alex and I will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, like you said, on the Ship It Nation YouTube channel. That's a free show, and we'll be breaking down a single entry and MME perspective from a complete game theory, roster construction. It's called Leverage Lane, and it's meant to find the leverage and within these builds and how you can apply them. So extremely helpful for those that have tuned in. Definitely check us out there. Appreciate it.
Blickle FTN Fantasy. Additionally, your Discord is linked down in the description if people want to go get it, with plays across all sports every single day. What do you have going on the rest of the week? When are your first run of ownership projections dropping?
They'll be up this afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, and over at FTN Fantasy. This is a great week. Pat, you might want this week. We've got high stakes ownership as well now. So you guys have heard me talk about our single entry ownership for a while. Added high stakes a few weeks ago, basically so that it would be ready for the Players Championship and the Masters when these mega millies are happening. So very excited for that. And then I'm going to do a 50% discount this week for my Discord, and that will work for monthly. It'll also work for annual. So if you want like this massive discount, we'll do promo code Masters Week for 50% off.
All right. For me, obviously, Apple and Spotify, rate and review, sub to the channel, smash a like. 6K guy in the description if you want to get in that draw for the BetSports Golf sub. But you want to get in and make your plays right now, use the tournament simulator. You can use the optimizer. You can use the old lineup builder and do all of your research. BetSportsGolf.com/Mayo for 25% off all plans. Or if you want to try it out for the month, Mayo 10 get you $10 for the month from now till next month. And there's 2 signature events that line up within that time period as well. So you get the Masters and 2 SIGs for $10 for the month. Cheaper than a pack of SIGs, Tambo.
These days, yeah, we were talking about that. Lots of things are expensive these days, Pat.
Yeah, not that. It's $10 for a month at betsportsgolf.com, so you can do that right now. All right. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck. Win $1 million if it's not me, okay? Or those guys. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!